Now let's move back to the paper 2 questions. This part of the question asks us to explain the effect of an increasing concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This is a direct question on the greenhouse effect. As the concentration of carbon dioxide increases, more heat is trapped in the atmosphere instead of escaping into space. This causes the Earth's average temperature to rise, leading to global warming and long-term climate change. So the answer we write is, carbon dioxide acts as a greenhouse gas and traps heat energy in the atmosphere, causing global warming and climate change. Now let's move on to another paper 2 question. So, this question asks, state the name of an organism shown in figure 6.1 that is a primary consumer and both a secondary consumer and a tertiary consumer. To answer the first part, identify the organisms that feed directly on the producers, which are the small photosynthesizing organisms. These include Nile tilapia, prawns, or zooplankton, so any one of these is correct. For the second part, look for an organism that feeds at more than one trophic level. Young Nile perch, or humans all feed at different trophic levels depending on what they eat, so the answer will be, young Nile perch is a secondary consumer because it feeds on primary consumers. Nile perch is a tertiary consumer because it feeds on secondary consumers such as young Nile perch. Humans can act as either secondary or tertiary consumers depending on the fish they eat. The next question asks, humans eat Nile tilapia, prawns, Nile sardines and Nile perch. Use information from figure 6.1 to state which of these is the least energy efficient for humans to eat and explain why. To answer this, look at the trophic levels in the food web. Nile perch is at the highest trophic level among the organisms listed. Since energy is lost at every transfer through respiration, heat, excretion and digestion, the higher the trophic level, the less energy remains available. Therefore, eating Nile perch is the least energy efficient option. So the answer we write is, Nile perch is the least energy efficient for humans to eat because it is at the highest trophic level in the food chain. More energy is lost to the environment through respiration, heat, excretion and digestion at each energy transfer, so less energy reaches humans. The next question asks, suggest the effects on this ecosystem of increasing the mass of Nile tilapia taken from the lake by human fishing. If more Nile tilapia are removed from the lake, their population will decrease. Animals that depend on Nile tilapia for food, such as African fish eagles, will have less food available, so their numbers may decrease. At the same time, the small photosynthesizing organisms and other organisms that Nile tilapia normally feed on will experience less predation, so their populations may increase. So the answer we write is, increasing the mass of Nile tilapia taken by fishing would cause a decrease in African fish eagles, an increase in small photosynthesizing organisms, and an increase in other organisms in the food web that are normally eaten by Nile tilapia. The final question asks, suggest and explain ways in which the fish populations of the Lake Victoria ecosystem can be managed so that they provide a sustainable resource. Think about methods of sustainable fishing. People can be educated about conservation so they understand the importance of protecting fish populations. Closed fishing seasons can be introduced to allow fish time to breed. Protected areas can be established where fishing is restricted. Nets with suitable mesh sizes can be used so young fish can escape and reproduce before being caught. Fishing quotas can also be introduced and enforced to prevent overfishing and ensure fish are removed at a sustainable rate. So the answer we write is, fish populations can be managed sustainably by educating people about conservation, introducing closed seasons so fish can breed, creating protected areas where fishing is restricted, controlling net types and mesh sizes so young fish can escape, and setting quotas with monitoring and enforcement to limit the amount of fish taken and prevent overfishing. Now let's move on to another paper 2 question. The question says, fish are an important part of the balanced diet of many people, and fishing is a major source of employment in some countries. Many people therefore believe that fish should be treated as a sustainable resource. The first question asks, describe what is meant by the term sustainable resource. This is a definition question, so we simply write, a sustainable resource is produced as rapidly as it is removed, so that it does not run out. The next question gives figure 5.1, which shows the maximum number of tons of herring that were allowed to be caught each year between 2012 and 2020. If we observe the graph carefully, the overall trend shows a sharp decline in the fishing quota. The quota starts at about 33,000 tons in 2012, falls over the following years with only a brief increase in 2014, and finally drops to about 2,000 tons in 2020. The question asks, using the information from figure 5.1, describe the trend in quota size and suggest explanations for this trend. Whenever you answer a graph question, first describe the trend and then explain the possible reason behind it. Here, the overall trend is a decrease in the quota over time. A likely explanation is that herring were being overfished or the previous quotas were too high, causing the fish population to decline. To prevent the species from becoming depleted, the government gradually reduced the quotas, giving the fish population time to recover and reproduce. So the answer we write is, The overall trend shows a decrease in the herring quota, falling from about 33,000 tons in 2012 to about 2,000 tons in 2020. This may be because of overfishing or quotas being set too high, causing fish stocks to decline. The quotas were then reduced to allow the herring population time to recover and breed. Moving on, setting fishing quotas is one method used when trying to conserve fish stocks. Explain how two other named methods can be used to conserve fish stocks. One method is closed seasons. During the breeding season, fishing is temporarily banned so that fish have enough time to reproduce and increase their population before fishing begins again. Explanation: we will write is, fishing is banned during the breeding season so that fish can reproduce and increase their population. Another method is controlled net types or mesh size. Nets with larger mesh sizes allow young fish to escape instead of being caught. This gives them time to grow to maturity and reproduce, helping to maintain fish stocks for the future. Explanation for this is, nets with larger mesh sizes allow young fish to escape, so they can grow, reproduce, and maintain fish stocks.